Spurs snapping that two-game losing streak with the win on New Year's Eve against the Knicks. The matchup of the two second seeds in both conferences. Vassell. After the offensive rebound, Fox fading away, got fouled, put it in, sliding away for a chance at a three-point play for you.
I call that the hotel room trip. You know what I mean by that? Don't leave the hotel room. A little for more on one of the wings.
Dylan Harper, show off!
Yeah! Damn!
Fox trying to use his speed and strength, and the float game is true. Lindy Waters almost loses the handle, fires away, and Lindy's got 2 threes.
He is a lights out. Back the opposite direction. We saw what happened at the end of the first.
Cornet Hall made Neesmith on a poster.
Oh, snap!
I know my sports, Jacob.
Champagny drops it off. Maybe could have just finished it himself. Inside, Cornet got fouled, pushed from behind. Clock at 3. Fox, a deep one. Hits it! A deep one for De'Aaron Fox.
Happy New Year to all Spurs fans all over the world, let alone all across the United States of America alone, both in the San Antonio market and outside the San Antonio market, especially for a guy like me who's an avid 29-year Spurs fan from outside of San Antonio in the Cleveland area. Congratulations to our own Coach Mitch on winning NBA Coach of the Month for the month of December by going 11-3 in the month of December, including 2 losses against the 2016 Mickey Mouse champion Cleveland Cavaliers and fake Cal Petty. Happy what should have been LaMarcus Aldridge's number in San Antonio instead of taking Bowen's number since he wore the number in college. On 23rd winning anniversary to Shay Carl and Colette Katie Butler, of the Shay Tards. I've been a fan since, 2 years ago on Thanksgiving, so they celebrated their 23rd winning anniversary today, so I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Last but not least, happy Sean Elliott 32nd birthday to Preston Play's wife, Brianna Paige Arsman Barnhart. Always remember, be you. And welcome to the first official video on my YouTube for 2026. Hey, what's going on? Mark here. Happy, Saturday night going into Sunday morning to all. We're technically one day away from going back to work and seeing my girlfriend and friends again for the first time since Christmas Eve. I mean, it has been a long-ass time, it feels like. But I always feel like, the Christmas breaks we get at work are like the second longest thing to last behind, winter as a whole. So, therefore, now we just got to take care of the rest of winter, blaze through it, go to see one of my best friends, Gavin McMullen. Shout out to you, bestie. I'm coming for you. I hope we can record some content for your YouTube and my YouTube that day on come Tuesday. Go watch him play. If I'm feeling, good enough on Tuesday, as long as we get home in a timely manner, then, we'll watch the Spurs at 8. But we have to see how early we get home. How late we may or may not get home too. How early or late we may or may not get home. And depending on how we're feeling after the game. So, because don't forget, we're almost 32. We can't be doing that shit anymore like we used to do at a younger age, like when I was 27. Like my sister's birthday in 2021, when we got that, we skipped from winter to spring, winter to summer in March and April. It was already mid to upper 70s, lower 80s in the COVID vaccine year. And it was that weird NBA season where it was 72 games shortened and the regular season kept going. And midway through, the regular season hit its heyday. Normally its heyday is in January, February, and March, stuff like that. But its heyday was in March and April, when normally we're getting ready for the playoffs, which eventually did go back to being the normal way in 2021-22. But don't forget, in the NBA regular season in 2020, 2021, it didn't start till Christmas time, and then we didn't start the playoffs until, early to mid-May in the season, and it didn't end with the finals and the Bucks win the championship till mid-July. So that was a weird NBA season. But on to the point of this, I'm mutating topics. When it was my sister's Jeff Green 30th birthday, because keep in mind, she's 3 years older than me, the Spurs had a game, and it was like we played outside first. It was like mid to upper 70s on our birthday, and luckily we were still young enough to the point where we could come home, keep our wardrobe on, the same wardrobe we wore outside, and still watch our stuff. I mean, Nowadays, if we're going to do that, we have to be extra careful that we don't wear ourselves out in terms of the energy and don't damage our body medically wise. So therefore, because getting old does suck ass. I can tell you that from, even though 32, which is how I'm going to be next month, is not that old. It's not that young either, just like 31. So we're gonna have to be extra careful on Tuesday if we're gonna still go see Gavin play and still be able to watch the Spurs. So and get the first TV broadcast style video of the homecoming game of Ridgeville for football 2 years ago uploaded, but. We will see what happens when the time gets close. Monday, kind of tomorrow, or going into the day of Tuesday when it's time to play. So we'll see. But anyway, we're gonna talk about. I wasn't gonna do a video because originally I was gonna talk about both the Friday Spurs game against the Pacers in Indiana at Conseco Fieldhouse, and the one that was tonight, technically yesterday, against the Blazers in SBC Center. But again, that's the third Spurs game I missed in 4 nights, considering, not that it matters because we ended up playing a kind of a mediocre game anyway, and this is why Wemby needs to stop getting hurt, because we need him for shit like this. So therefore, I really can't talk about that because I really didn't see it. So therefore, I couldn't talk about the game, like the New Year's Eve game against the Knicks, or the Paris Burrell's birthday game against the 2016 Mickey Mouse champions and fake Kyle Petty. So the only game I could talk about ever since we ended 2025 and began 2026 is the one against the Pacers in Conseco Fieldhouse on Brianna Arsman's Sean Elliott 32nd birthday. So let's talk about it. So the Pacers, are much like the Jazz and even the Pelicans and even the Clippers, with jailbraids and Uncle Dennis. Sure, their record may look bad. They seem like a bad team on paper. Yes, I agree. And they are a bad team. Those are bad teams for the most part, just like, the Clippers, even though we haven't faced them yet, but the Jazz are a bad team, but their record, don't like us judge them by their record, because they even though they're a bad team, bad teams like that could still occasionally give good teams a run for their money. And that's what Utah did to us, which was my last Spurs game review of 2025 and the last Spurs game I watched in 2025. So this Blazer team is in play and terror, on the bubble of, you getting a play-in spot or not, seeing any postseason action at all, whether it be play-in or playoff. So therefore, there may be a mostly injured team that looks merely mediocre to bad, but, much like the Jazz, they can give good teams a run for their money, because at least they have Denny Advia healthy, considering, they just got their star player, Damian Lillard, back, but he can't play till, much like, Halliburton and Indy, he won't be able to play until next year because of the severity of the injury he suffered, last season. So, but they have Advia. Blake Wesley should be back, a former Spur, should be back. He did get a nice warm welcome back ovation tonight from the San Antonio home crowd, but make no mistake, much like Mamukelashvili in Toronto, because it was only a matter of time before he did the following. Wait until Blake comes back to play for Portland, back from injury, and then before you know it, he's going to turn into prime Michael Jordan, like every other motherfucker has left the Spurs, either go to another team and turn into prime Michael, or vanish from the league completely. It's like the prime Michael Jordan one really bothers me. We have players doing that for us in this current team, but when those players who were in San Antonio, who left eventually, were here, I wish they could have done that for us, but we can't go back and change the past because it's, it can't change history because it's the past. So therefore, if they could do that, if they're doing that for their new, their current teams, then okay, fine. Then that, I get, because they wouldn't have been allowed to do that with us when Pop was the coach, and I don't know whether or not Mitch would allow that, considering, Mitch already confirmed that doesn't want to be Pop. He's not Pop 2.0. He's his own person. Well, yeah, of course. You can't always, be exactly like the original. You can only be your own version of your own self and not try to replicate and fill the original and try to fill the OG shoes. But anyway. But like the Blazers tonight, I mean, Indiana, if they didn't have Halliburton and all those other guys who weren't injured, they'd be a contender again this year. Because I bet you if Burton does not get hurt, in the finals last year, Game 6, where it was, the start, but then they forced him to play injured, which finished him off and lost the Pacers the championship. If he would hit, if that he would have gotten injury free in that finals, I bet you Indiana wins the championship and Halliburton gets that first NBA ring, and just gives them the a hat to hang on that Reggie Miller sadly couldn't do, be an NBA champion. So. Yeah, so just like, let me get to the point of mutating topics here. Much like the Blazers tonight and the Utah Jazz, it's a couple days after Christmas. I mean, don't judge the Pacers by their bad record. Sure, they're the worst. They're one of the worst teams in the league, along with the Wizards, because the Wizards did the same thing like the Jazz did, and what the after Christmas, the 2 days after Christmas, the Blazers did earlier tonight. The Pacers will, if you're a good team, the Pacers, even with their bad record and how bad they are this year, with all the injuries and such, every now and then, if you're not careful, if you're a good team, they will give you a run for their money. And they kind of did at first. I mean, we executed and responded to every time they had a little bit of burst of momentum, we had a response to it and stalled them we stalled them like, a true contending team should against a bad team, I mean, sure, they did cut it to single digits at one point, like when the game was almost over, but the Spurs found a way to respond like they always do. I mean, Fox did well Friday night. Harper proved why he's one of the biggest prodigies in the NBA this year, which is why I'm glad we got him and not Cooper Flagg instead of getting, we got the number 2 pick and selected him instead of getting the number 1 pick and selecting Flagg. Stephon Castle showing why he should win Most Improved Player. Keldon Johnson proving why he should win Sixth Man of the Year. Spurs proving that they belong back in the playoffs for the first time since 2019. But forget the whole the shebang like Ricky Martin of that being at least that should have been being Parker's last playoff hoorah. This is going to be Wemby's first playoff hoorah if he can find a way to stay healthy long term and keep the Spurs moving at this level. We're mostly more with them than without him. I mean, even without him, they've been moving at this good level. But he's missed last 2 games. He can only miss 4 more, and then but in order to stay eligible for any end of season awards like Defensive Player of the Year and MVP and stuff like that, because if he misses 4 more games or more, then he's ineligible. So that means I'll have to wait for my 30th anniversary as a fan. So I'm hoping that's not the case, but knowing how things like that go, I'm not holding my breath. So. But we don't play for the next 2 days. Sunday and Monday we get time off, so therefore at least it'll give him more time to heal to the point where it's a good chance he'll be back for Tuesday's game after we see Gavin play. So prayers up for Wemby. It's no ligament damage. He avoided serious injury, but man, that knee injury, we thought it was a hyperextension, it was just lucky. It's just left knee soreness. So when he said he was fine, he came back on the bench. He was being like Tim Duncan, one tough customer. He even wanted to come back in the game and finish it off, but apparently they didn't need him. And then he was well enough to greet the fans, center court, to do the banging of the drum tradition with the Jackals and let Julian bang it and to address his career night from both in Spurs history as well as the 3-point line in his career alone, because he did tear that shit up like Terry Labonte. He just gave Julian the drumstick and let him bang and was addressing the fans like he would not nothing happened, which is a good sign, I can say. Maybe he won't miss too much time and he'll be back Tuesday, but only time will tell. You just never know what's going to happen next. But, back to the Pacer game. I mean, I know the Pacer fans were looking forward to their chicken if we missed 2 consecutive free throws, and when Cornette missed that 1 free throw, the Pacers fans are trying really hard to distract him Cornette really good to make him miss that 2nd free throw to have him get their free chicken. But when Cornette made that 2nd free throw, it was like, sit your ass down, Pacer fans, no free chicken for you. So therefore they went home without the free chicken because he made the 2nd free throw after missing the first in the closing stages of the games, in the final seconds of the game. But yeah, I mean, at least that we got the Christmas miracle and one on Brianna Arsman's birthday, even though we shit the bed on Paris Burrell's birthday and spoiled her Riley Minnick's Nicola Provitola 27th birthday, which is probably a good thing. I fell asleep while excitedly waiting for that game, so I didn't have to see that. But this is the first Spurs game I've watched. I've watched this 2026 and the first one we played in 2026, and we were undefeated in 2026 until the game that happened tonight took place, where we just didn't play well. The Blazers were a better team, and Advia had one of his best games, not just against the Spurs, but of his best games in his career in general, regardless who was against. So he is basically the next Blazer great after Damian Lillard, considering he's done more in Portland than he did in Washington. Sure, the Wizards made the playoffs in 2021 with him on the team, but much like Duncan in 2000, he didn't play because he was injured. So technically it doesn't count, while at the same time it kind of does. But I mean, Duncan is technically listed as never having a losing season or missing the playoffs, even though he didn't even play in 2000 because of his injury in the 78th game of the season, which was a season-ending dunk against the King Sacramento, which the Spurs did make the playoffs, but obviously he didn't play because the Pop didn't want to risk injuring him even further, which is smart. But that's why 2000 should have been the repeat for us to go back to back. 1999, 2000, and 2013, 14 still bugs me about how those 2 years could have been repeats. If 2000 Duncan never gets injured, 2013 Ginobili and the fraud made to make their clutch free throws in the closing seconds of Game 6. They could have been 7-time champions, and Duncan would have been 7-0 in the finals, but the only way we're going to find out is see if we could. Sadly, we'll never know in real life of how that would have happened, but the only way to find out is like going on a PC version of Live 2000, doing alternate history where Duncan doesn't have that injury, and then going on NBA 2K13 and trying to keep, Steven Jackson on the Spurs to not act like he's better than Danny and Manu, and make, cap him for the 2013 playoffs. So if Ginobili still has his bad series outside of Game 5, Captain Jack could bail him out, and helping, the fraud on locking up and shutting down LaFour and 6 in the finals. So I might give the Spurs the championship that got away in 2013 on NBA 2K13 now that I think of it. But that's not going to be for a long-ass time, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But the next Spurs game will be on Tuesday. I have to see how I'm feeling after we get back from Gavin's game, and see if my body's feeling well enough in terms of not medical wise, but like energy wise, to see if I have enough energy for the Spurs game on Tuesday with Jacob and Sean on Fox Southwest against the Grizzlies at FedEx Forum. So I'm going to give a kudos to the Grizzlies for still keeping their OG Arena name, because most of the OG teams retired their OG Arena name. Like, I still call the Miami Heat Arena American Airlines Arena SBC, even though it took me a while to stop saying AT&T. I still call Phoenix America West Arena, stuff like that. I still call Denver Pepsi Center. Air Canada Center still called Toronto Raptors House. I still call the Pacery Casico Fieldhouse, that kind of stuff. My arm's getting tired. My left arm's getting tired. But yeah, I know name changes and sponsorship, changes are part of life. It evolves. But if you're an OG fan like me and grew up with the OG name, you're not going to give a shit what they call it after that. You're still going to call it by the OG name. I know a lot of sports fans here in Ohio of Cleveland sports still say Indians rather than Guardians. They still say Jacobs Field rather than Progressive Field. Hell, they even still call the Rocket Arena the Gun Arena. I don't find very many people still calling it Quicken Loans Arena and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. More people call it Gundarena than they still call it Gundarena. They call it the next two successors' names. Like, even as a non-Cavs fan, I still say Gundarena because that's how I remember it the most. But enough for that. I hope everyone had a safe and blessed holiday. Had a very Merry Christmas and has a very happy New Year, and that 2026 brings you guys a lot of blessings, a lot of bright lights and love, and a lot of happiness and joy, more than 2025 ever did. Hopefully 2026 will be our year. I'm not talking about being a Spurs fan, win the championship, but I'm talking about just life in general. Hopefully this will be our year to make some good stuff happen that we couldn't make happen in 2025, including the YouTube content I plan to bring out for the first time last year that I wasn't able to because other things got in the way or life ended up getting busy. So therefore, you will be okay. Here's the. I'll end this off like this. If we have enough energy to watch the Spurs play the Grizzlies in Memphis at FedEx Forum after Gavin's game, okay, fine. We will do Spurs content on Tuesday night, but we won't upload the Gavin McMullen game until early Wednesday morning. So that's the plan. But if you only see the Gavin McMullen stuff, but no Spurs stuff on Tuesday, I like it on Tuesday as the backup plan, then you'll know why, because I was too tired for the Spurs game. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. We're going to play it by ear. I mean, we're going to figure out one thing at a time, as in the following 2 days to come. So have a good night tonight and a better day tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Good night. I will see you all for the next video, which will be either Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever that may be. So see you later, everyone. And as always, go Spurs go. Happy New Year. God bless you all. Oh, yeah, and before I forget, this happened to be mostly overlooked on Friday during the third game we talked about in this video. Happy James Silas' 13th birthday to country singer Hadley Grace. I hope you had an amazing day, and that I'm glad that, my Spurs were able to pick up a win for you, even though you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan. But when we play you guys later in the season, both in Milwaukee and in San Antonio, it's on! Okay, now we can say goodbye for real this time. See you all next upload. Happy New Year, everyone. See y'all later.
Go, Spurs, go!
This copyrighted broadcast of the National Basketball Association may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the NBA.